Thank you very much for the invitation. It is a pleasure and great to be here and to have the opportunity to gain an insight in the Israeli perspective of EU programs and projects in the field of higher education, which is very new to me. First, I'd like shortly to introduce myself. My name is Stefica Fiolic. I'm working as Erasmus coordinator at the Goethe University in Frankfurt at the Faculty of Social Sciences. Oh, thanks you. In this context, research and non-research oriented based international mobility became, due to Bologna and the ongoing internationalization, more and more important in the past few years. What am I going to talk about today? First, I will catch up some points which Mr. Zimmermann had made, some general remarks on EU-funded international partnerships in research and non-research projects. Secondly, I'd like to discuss more in detail the so-called lifelong learning program, the LLP, and the Erasmus program in specific. Then I would like to draw your attention to the more practical way of managing this kind of program. I would like to draw your attention to the administrative, strategic, and organizational matters. After that, I would like to catch up some ideas about the convenient forms of partnerships, especially within the Erasmus program. And at the end, I'd like to sum up some criteria for productive partnerships within this field of higher education and some practical tips. To understand differences and similarities between research-based projects and non-research-based projects, let it say, ideal typed model may serve as a point of departure. The characteristics of research-based projects are mostly limited in time. They used to focus on a specific field of research goals and synergies. One can maybe say they are more output-oriented, and they are focused to a selected group of academics and experts in a specific field of research. In contrast to that, the characteristics of European-funded non-research programs, such as, for example, the LLP and the Erasmus and other exchange programs, are mainly based on agreements which are renewable and where the program as a whole is open-ended, taking into account the fact that the agreements have to be renewed and also that EU reforms had to be integrated during the time. One may say this sort of agreements are more long-term and process-oriented. They focus on mobility of students, academic and administrative staff, learning and working opportunities in different fields of education. This means they are addressing a very heterogeneous group and a much larger number of participants who are making their research or are taking part in fields of education which are very diverse. Both of these models, one may say, are interlinked at different administrative and managerial levels. Besides the identification of key actors, it is important to take the level of institutionalization that these programs have undergone in the past few years into account. On this ground, a thorough review of the context marks a prerequisite for selecting and identifying partners before mapping and valuing resources. What do I mean when I say reviewing the context? I mean, it is quite useful to define the urgency of need or the specific interest, to define the degree of stability. Here, for instance, past experiences in projects can be a good starting point to foster a productive partnership. Also, the history. Are there any partnerships which can maybe be readapted or rebuilt on a new ground? It could be also helpful to identify pressure from so-called non-partners and to develop strategies of dealing with it. It is also useful to have an overlook about the availability of resources or the existence of an enabling environment and the availability of partnering competences. What does this mean? This means what is quite apparent. One central point is to work with multiple relationships, individuals and organizations. Although this is apparent, to know where, when, on which level, with whom, for what reason, to discuss specific questions is a demanding task if one wants to establish and maintain a good communicative structure. I'd like to clarify this remarks by drawing on the LLP. The ongoing program generation, which starts in the year 2007 and will end this year with a budget of 7 billion euros, funds a range of activities, including exchanges, study visits, network activities. Projects are not only intended for individual students and learners, but also for teachers, trainees, and all other involved in education and training. There are a few sub-programs which funds projects on different levels of education and training. These are, as you can see here, Comenius for school, Erasmus for higher education, Leonardo da Vinci for vocational and educational training, Grundtvig for adult education. And there are also other projects that are relevant to all these kind of levels of education, such as teaching, information communication technologies, policy cooperation, and dissemination. Since now, thank you. Since now, all of these projects have been addressing European partners. The only exception is the Jean Monnet program, which addresses partner universities since now worldwide who are dealing with questions concerning the European Union and who are fostering debates on this topic. The name Erasmus and the forthcoming name Erasmus with an added plus draw to more than just a clever marketing strategy. As the following graphic shows, in the EU, close to 3 million students participate in the program since it started in 1987. The last few years, Erasmus as became an integral part of student life. I, for instance, was still an exception as Erasmus outgoing within my degree program. Meanwhile, every student knows somebody who took part in the Erasmus program, has Erasmus friends. All over Europe, there are Erasmus networks, clubs, societies, which shape a new quality of mobility, studying, living, and working conditions for students. Due to Bologna and the ongoing internationalization, there have been several changes in this program which had an impact on the forms of mobility. To sum up the current ones. In general, the students, compared to the older generation of Erasmus students, tend to stay only 3 to 6 months at partner universities rather than 1 academic year. This tendency is underlined by the rising demand for Erasmus placements and the rising interest of students to make an internship abroad, especially in international organizations. What is finally planned within the key action 1, which is the forthcoming program of this Erasmus program, is to include non-EU partners within it in future time. And there are two objects that have been given more attention by the EU. The EU demands a better recognition of accomplishments for the next program generation and to facilitate more mobility of administrative staff. The new Erasmus Charter and the goals formulated in it are taking the mentioned changes, especially concerning what is new, the facilitation of education, research, economy, and fostering of excellence and regional development is going to play a much bigger importance rather than in the past. It is more oriented towards synergies between and within the existing programs, which makes it more complex. The classical Erasmus Charter represents a prerequisite for all universities in Europe who are taking part in this program in the past few years. It contains central measures for each institution for higher education in the EU to ensure equality and quality between partner institutions and standards for learning and teaching mobility. I will illustrate this on a standardized university charter. So what are the criteria for partnerships? Every university should not take any fees for tuition, registration, examination, access to library and library facilities. Every university shall be able to recognize the completed activities of the students. They should ensure the highest quality in the organization of student and staff mobility, curriculum information, academic transfer system, ECTS. Equal treatment, services to home university, the integration of visiting Erasmus students, provide incoming Erasmus students and their home institution with transcripts containing full, accurate and timely information, facilitate and acknowledge Erasmus teaching activities, promote and give visibility to the activities supported by the program, publicize this charter, comply with the objectives of non-discrimination set out in the lifelong learning program. So one can say every university or every partnership which is built within the Erasmus program is based on this charter. Every university needs this charter to take part within this Erasmus program, and is summarizing the main measures every university has to undertake to secure this kind of equality and quality. Yeah. And maybe someone wants to the classical Erasmus Charter, one has to take into account that the level of internationalization, which is a really big word for many different processes, still differs in many ways between EU partner universities. For example, from my experiences, partner universities in Spain, France, Great Britain, Eastern Europe tend to have a higher degree sometimes of internationalization than partner universities in Greece, Italy or Turkey. But it is really important not to generalize this kind, because also the level of internationalization can be very different within the countries, between the universities. Yeah. Another way of looking at the partnership formation is the administrative and organizational level. I will take the Goethe University as an example. Let me give you a brief overview of the administrative and managerial context. In general, the Goethe University as a whole university has three types of partnerships, which are strategic partnerships, partnerships with a so-called regional focus, and Erasmus partnerships. Every of these partnerships is administered at and in between different institutional levels. I will take the Erasmus program as an example. These are the main levels, as you can see. The main levels or the main entities are the Institute for Sociology and Political Sciences, the department, which includes these two institutes, the International Office and the Presidency. The connection and the way the administration is done is mainly hierarchically organized. The two institutes here, the Sociology of Political Sciences, both of them have about 10,000 students, 40 professors, and about 100 research assistants who offer a wide range of seminars, just to give you an idea about the framework. The International Office is the central actor at the university level concerning the Erasmus program. It is responsible in the first place for controlling, budgeting, and administration. The partnerships and the decisions to organize partnerships are mainly made on the departmental level and on the institutional level. Yeah. The two institutes, they are mainly responsible for developing curricula, topics, and seminars. This is important to take into account because this is the main level at which the accomplishment of seminars who were taken at partner universities is taking place. Then we have the Erasmus placements. The Erasmus placements, they're mainly organized at the level of the International Office and a consortium which in Hessen includes not only the Goethe University but many universities in the region. Yeah? And they are working closely together with the International Office and the national agency. Then we have the strategic partnerships. The strategic partnerships are mainly organized between the university, the presidency, and the International Office. And we have at the moment at the faculty, at the departmental level of social sciences, just to give you an idea, when I'm talking about partnership and cooperation, we have currently 65 partner universities, and every year about 19 outgoing students who are taking part in the Erasmus program. 90. 90. Just let me say something about the so-called strategic partnerships. As you have seen, they are organized at a different organizational level. The Goethe University is not an example. There are many universities in Germany now changing a bit their focus of internationalization. They're going to concentrate more the resources on specific partners with whom they used to have a long-standing or longer-standing partnership. As, for example, the Goethe University has partnerships, the so-called strategic partnerships at Toronto, Birmingham, Karls University in Prague, Fudan University in China, Osaka University in Japan, Tel Aviv University in Israel, University of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia in the USA. So, on the administrative level, they have nothing to do with the Erasmus program. But at the same time, since the strategic partnerships are going to play be of more importance within the new program generation, they will also affect the way the Erasmus program will be managed. This means, for instance, if we have partners from Birmingham coming and they want to have a bilateral agreement, it is much easier to set up an agreement with partners within the strategic partnerships rather than with partners where haven't been any connections before. Yeah. And the main goal of internationalization, as example, I take the Goethe University, and I think that is something which is also going on in other partner universities in Europe, is to concentrate future activities between projects, research, and teaching on few partner on the university level. But Erasmus is going, they're interested that the Erasmus program at the departmental level is going to expand, yeah? Because more and more students are looking for an internship abroad or are looking to take part, and because also of the modularization of the curricula, they feel more obliged to go abroad. This is really a new quality also of study. So now I'd like to come to the end to sum up the main criteria, what to look for partners in Erasmus, and what are the partners looking for. First of all, when we are when partners ask to make a bilateral agreement, what do we look for? First of all, we look at the curricula. Are there any complementary courses, topics, which can be included? We are looking also at the number of English-speaking seminars. Don't understand me wrong, it's not necessary that every course has to change all the courses in English-speaking seminars. That's not necessary. We had in Frankfurt also the discussion, one say, oh, they're in Germany, they should learn German. Yeah, why should we offer only courses in English? The other side said, oh, but we want to internationalize, so we have to open it more towards English-speaking seminars. One has to take into account, so I take the student perspective. I know many students, they're interested to learn both languages. Yeah, they want to learn German and they want to learn or use the English skills. Yeah. Another point is the visibility, which is important. For instance, when we look at curricula, it makes it much more easier when we do our job, when we have the opportunity to look at the website and see, oh, that's the way this curricula is structured. It helps us to estimate the compartmentality of the courses. Another thing, as I told you before, is the administrational level, the Erasmus Charter and the measures I have been summarizing. Then the request from students and lecturers. For instance, if students or lecturers come to me and say, oh, we want to go abroad, we want to go to Stockholm, is it possible to establish a partnership? So we try to establish a partnership or an Erasmus agreement where students and staff can participate. Yeah? The internationalization, that means we are also looking how international are the partner universities abroad, the strategic cooperation, the reputation of the universities, and as I told you before, are there any partnerships with the regional focus existing? So these are roughly the main criteria which play a crucial role when looking for partners or when our partners looking for us. So now I come to the very practical level. I took up some practical guidelines for LLP Erasmus coordinators. These are informal guidelines made by the European Commission. So what are the first steps? What is really important is always to study the provisions of the handbooks, guidelines carefully, check eligible costs, rules for transfer, provisions, travel and subsistence, what is required when managing project accounts. It is a very formalized way you have to deal with. To ensure to download all contractual documentation, contract amendment. For all project outputs, you're required to use applicable LLP program logos, provide copies, discuss budgeting question with all partners involved. Define the management of your partnership, project milestones, deadlines of deliverable and internal meeting schedule, allocate tasks to project partners according to the project work plan, share ownership of the project within the consortium by concluding consortium agreements among partners, defining decision-making and organizational procedures and establishing effective communication among the project partners. Establishing, I think that's also very important, mechanisms for problem conflict resolution within the consortium, securing institutional support with regard to specific requirements, and set up a quality control system, internal and external evaluation. Access to useful source of information you can find at the website of the European Commission, Erasmus contacts, project handbooks, frequently asked questions, contractual documents, reporting templates, logos, Erasmus project Compedia, Erasmus Info Kit. So this is to sum it shortly up. I think I can give this presentation also to you, and you can use it then, so you don't need to write it everything down. So, as an outlook, I think that due to the ongoing process of internationalization at European universities and the experience made in the past few years against this background and towards Erasmus Plus, it is a big chance for the European partners and for the so-called non-European partners to extend their partnerships either in one or the other direction, and because basically the fact that globalization is affecting in many ways politics and societies and in all over the world, I think that is one of the best chances now at this moment to start to rearrange the partnerships and to widen the horizon. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Okay.